They had the House. They had the Senate. They had the White House. But what did they do with it?
No, I'm just keeping it real.
The Democratic Party had the power, but missed the moment. From Biden's presidency to holding both chambers of Congress. The numbers were on their side. But courage, not so much. Voters put them in office to do something bold. Instead they did what they do. And now people are wondering, were they ever really in the battle? Let's break this all the way down. The president pardoned his son and others. But not the thousands still serving time for non-violent marijuana charges, waiting on overdue justice. What does that say about priorities? Republicans were heavily utilizing TikTok and YouTube to spread their political messages, while Democrats were still trying to figure out how to update their Facebook page. Why were they so far behind? Let's talk about the Democratic Party. Not in theory, but in truth. This is not about party loyalty. This is about the poor and working class people who live every day barely making ends meet. These are people who drive the buses, clean the stores, and work tirelessly to put food on the table. People who trusted that the party would change their lives. Yet all they got were broken promises and empty slogans. For 2 years, the Democrats had the majority and the momentum. They had the chance to lead without obstruction. But when the moment came, they hesitated. They talked about change but didn't deliver. They did not pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. They did not pass the Build Back Better plan. They did not secure a $15 minimum wage. They did not deliver paid family leave. They did not push through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, universal childcare and free community college. Permanently extending the child tax credit were all on the table. But no one moved them forward. Immigration reform stalled. And proposals to expand the Supreme Court, or set term limits, were never taken seriously. Instead, the party kept asking for more time and more studies. While the cost of living soared, rents skyrocketed, and healthcare remained broken. The people on the front lines were left with nothing but promises. Working folks saw their wages stagnate while inflation took a toll on groceries, energy, and every basic need. Hospitals struggled. Schools lost funding, and every day more people had to choose between paying bills and putting food on the table. The poor and working class families, who had hoped for relief, received only endless speeches and half-hearted press conferences. When Democrats held all the power, hope was high. The people expected change, the nation needed reform. But all we saw were meetings, round-table discussions, and a constant plea for patience. With every push for legislation, the party stumbled. Their unity was a myth. Leaders could not corral the dissenters within their own ranks. Prominent voices like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema repeatedly blocked progress. And no one in the leadership dared to challenge them. In the end, the party lost its fire and its promise to fight for the working class. Now let's focus on what the Republicans are really doing and why it keeps working. They don't just believe in small government or low taxes. That's the surface. At their core, their policies are designed to protect the wealthy. They fight to cut programs that help the poor. They fight to block health care, food assistance, housing support, and even minimum wage increases.
Why?
Because their donors don't need those things. And the more the rich keep, the more power they hold. But here's the real trick. They've convinced poor white people that non-white people are the problem. That immigrants are stealing jobs, that welfare queens are draining the system. That crime, broken schools, and poverty in America are all because of those people. Republicans act like people don't need health care, because they're all just in the basement playing video games. All fake news.
It's based on a lie.
And man, did it work.
Because as long as poor white folks blame someone else, they will never look at the ones actually holding them down. The truth is, the rich don't care about the working class, black folks, brown folks, or poor white folks. They care about staying rich and powerful. That's it. But instead of calling them out, Democrats are quiet. And instead of telling the truth boldly, they play it safe. They didn't break it down in plain language. They didn't show up where the people are hurting. And that silence costs votes. Meanwhile, Republicans play a smarter game. They act like they're fighting among themselves. Like they won't vote for a bill, but in the end, they always fall in line. It's a show, and Democrats keep falling for it. While the GOP is feeding the media chaos, Democrats are chasing headlines, not setting their own. Every time there is a scandal.
It's so distracting.
Wild tweet.
What are Republicans for?
They stay locked in, they confuse, distract and divide, then slide their real agenda through while no one's watching. That's not just politics, that's their strategy, and it worked. It's time for Democrats to stop reacting to the mess, start calling out the truth. Loudly, directly, and repeatedly. Let the people know the whole truth. This isn't about red versus blue. This is about the rich and the super rich versus everybody else. And the poor have been losing for too long.
They're playing games.
On paper, the middle class is defined as households making between $75,000 and $200,000 a year. But in reality, that doesn't tell the whole story. For a family of 4 in 2025, the real middle class likely starts above $300,000. That's the level you're not living check to check. Affording you the opportunity to buy a home, take care of healthcare needs, and maybe help your children with college. Without going into debt or stressing over every single bill. If you are a family of 4, making less, you're not middle class. You are working class, or poor, you are surviving, not living. Most of the people who make this country run don't have that kind of income. But the political speeches still act like everybody is doing okay. As long as they're part of the fake middle class. That's the disconnect. Thinking the working class and middle class are in the same category. And here's what it looks like in real numbers. Let's take a family of 4 living in a city like Chicago or Los Angeles. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, easily over $3,000 a month. And that's not in a luxury building. Utilities and internet, about $400. Groceries for a family of 4, even cooking at home, and buying store brands still comes to $800 to $1,000 a month. Car insurance and gas, or public transportation for 2 working adults, another $400 to $500. Healthcare costs, even with some kind of insurance, add another $300 minimum. That's already $4,300 to $4,600 a month, or over $52,000 a year, just to survive in a major city. Now let's look at a smaller city. Say, Little Rock or West Memphis, Arkansas. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, around $1,100 a month. Utilities and internet, about $250, groceries still $700 or more a month. Car insurance and gas, around $300 to $350. Healthcare still not cheap, around $250 minimum. Now you're looking at $2,600 to $2,800 a month. Or at least $31,000 to $34,000 a year. And that's with no savings, no emergencies, no vacations, and no extras. Now let's do the math on this so-called $17 an hour wage. Even though, I appreciate many of the ideas Bernie Sanders fight for, $17 an hour is not realistic if we're being honest about today's costs. For one full-time worker it is $2,720 a month before taxes, and $32,640 a year gross income. After taxes, you're taking home around $2,300 to $2,400 a month. Which is roughly $27,600 to $28,800 a year. In Los Angeles or Chicago, you can't even cover rent with that. In Little Rock, you might just scrape by. But one surprise expense could sink the whole ship. And if both adults are working full-time, then childcare becomes an issue, and that can run you $600 to $1,200 a month depending on where you live. So no, $17 an hour doesn't lift families out of poverty. It barely keeps their heads above water. This is why the working class is not middle class. And the poor have been pushed into survival mode for decades. Now let's talk about President Biden. His final months in office came with a historic opportunity. The Supreme Court handed the president more power than ever before. It was a moment that could have been used to reshape lives and build a better future for thousands of people. Instead, he pardoned his own son, while any loving parent might feel compelled to do that. It cast a long shadow over the thousands still serving time. People with old felonies who struggled to secure decent jobs were forgotten. The families of those punished for surviving in a system rigged against them deserved more than a quiet self-serving act. Instead of using that power for sweeping reforms, the administration's focus shifted inward, leaving the vulnerable to fend for themselves. The silence from the top was deafening. Every time there was a chance to make a bold move, the party hesitated. This was not just a failure of policy, it was a failure of courage. And that failure trickled down to every corner of the working class, leaving millions to wonder if their votes ever mattered. There was another major chance that slipped away. The Democrats had a window to expand statehood. Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. All are home to American citizens without full voting rights in Congress. Granting these areas statehood could have increased the number of senators and representatives who would fight for working-class interests, infusing Congress with fresh voices that understood the struggles of everyday people. Yet, instead of seizing this opportunity, Democrats remained inert. They did not fight for statehood, and the consequences of that neglect continue to weigh on those left voiceless. The failing to pass critical law, such as the police reform bill and comprehensive voting rights legislation, speaks volumes about the lack of focus on the issues that matter most to the poor and working class. Think about the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. It promised to end systemic abuses and rebuild trust between communities and law enforcement. It offered hope that the people, who live in fear every day, would finally see justice done. Instead, the bill never left the Senate floor. The opportunity to reform a broken system was lost, and the voices of those battered and voiceless went unheard. In the digital age, silence is a liability. While Republicans actively engaged on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, Democrats were less visible, particularly on YouTube, which attracts over 150 million American daily viewers. This imbalance allowed Republicans to dominate the online conversations. YouTube influencers, claiming to be pro-black with millions of followers, are promoting Republican talking points. They claim to champion working-class values, ended up tearing down programs like Earned Income Credit and food assistance. When you don't engage with the public where they are, your message becomes a whisper lost in the roar of louder voices. A significant challenge for Democrats was their reliance on public figures who don't resonate with their base. Instead of championing grassroots leaders who understood the hardships of the average worker, the party brought in personalities like Oprah, and even tried to lean on figures like Liz Cheney.
Really?
This isn't about celebrity endorsement. It's about genuine representation. The people want figures who truly understand their day-to-day struggles. They want advocates who have worked the jobs, lived the poverty, and experienced the despair firsthand. Then there is the Supreme Court, the institution that now shapes policies on healthcare, education, and even the right to vote. The court has rolled back critical advances. Student loans remain a burden, and environmental protections have been stripped away. Democrats had a golden opportunity to push for court expansion or impose term limits. Such changes could have provided a check on the growing power of the judiciary, and ensured that the future of policy would lean towards protecting ordinary people. But the Democrats avoided rocking the boat. They chose a path of caution over bold reform. And now, the court's decisions continue to chip away at progress, leaving the poor and working class people further marginalized. One cannot ignore the missed chance to use the government shutdown as a lever for change. Republicans have long used shutdown threats to force budget cuts and stall progress. There was an opportunity for Democrats to adopt a similar stance, to push the government to address the demands for justice. Despite the unfolding government shutdown, Chuck Schumer chose a path of compromise. This comes as thousands of federal workers are being laid off, and major programs like Social Security, healthcare, and education is facing disruptions. There are also growing problems with flight delays and FAA staffing. On top of that, concerns are rising over improper deportations and possible data breaches across government agencies. The strategy of leveraging a shutdown as a protest tool might have been risky, but it could have forced the issue. They are shutting it down. From the inside anyway.
This is so hard!
Now comes the hard part. What must the Democrats do if they want to win back trust and truly serve the poor, working class, and the middle class? They need to be in the streets. They have to march alongside the people, on the sidewalks. Hold town hall meetings at local churches, barbershops, factories, community centers, and grocery stores. Visit the neighborhoods where the people live to see and understand firsthand the hardships of paying rent, buying groceries, and putting children through school. People don't want polished speeches delivered from a distant office. They want to see a leader who is present, who gets out of their car and listens to their problems. The Democratic Party must master the art of social media. This isn't about posting pretty pictures. It's about going live, engaging in real-time conversations, and countering the false narrative spread by opponents with actual proof. Stop ignoring the people at the bottom and calling it success. Have the Democratic Party partnered with the Poor People's Campaign? Let's talk about the Poor People's Campaign. Why aren't more Democrats standing shoulder to shoulder with them? This campaign has been in the streets, organizing, marching, showing up for poor folks of all races. They call out poverty, racism, environmental injustice, and endless wars. The very issues American families encounter daily. If Democrats say they're the party of the people, then the Poor People's Campaign should be front and center. They should be using their platforms to uplift that work, to join those marches, and to speak those truths. They need to create content that talks plainly about issues like the rising cost of living and the rollout of Project 2025. Digital engagement must be a battle cry, not a mere afterthought. They also need to conquer YouTube, and I'm not talking about watching music videos. I'm talking about partnering with the voices the people trust. Willie D brings raw street-level truth that resonates with everyday struggles, reaching millions. Luke Beasley breaks it down. Progressive commentary for younger voters. He speaks plain truth with sharp insight, reaching millions daily. The Defiant Lawyers expose injustice. Legal breakdowns in simple terms. Speak to working families. The Democratic Party must also work with smaller creators who speak directly from the heart of the communities. Like History Told Through Black Eyes, my own channel. It's a space where we all can see our reality and get real solutions. Please support this channel and hit the subscribe button. The Democratic Party has to be quick to act. No waiting for the next election. No waiting for the perfect moment. Real change demands daily dedication. This means holding press conferences or town hall meetings every day. Not just during election season. It means answering tough questions about why policies that could help people were placed on the shelf time after time. The Democrats also need to shed their ties with outdated networks. They must embrace younger, more dynamic voices. These voices will not just echo the promises of the past. They will offer fresh solutions and innovative ideas to break the cycle of neglect. Crucially, the party must stop chasing distractions. Every time Trump makes an outrageous comment, or Elon posts something bizarre, the Democrats lose focus. The battle is not about billionaire rivalries. It's about the real issues that affect real people every day. The Democrats must realize that unity is not about everyone agreeing on every detail. It is about coming together on core issues that matter most to the people. When Republicans show a united front, it's because they simplify their goals and stick to a clear message. Democrats need to do the same. They need to put aside internal divisions and work together to pass the laws that will bring genuine change. They should also reconsider their approach to legislative strategies. Instead of cautious negotiations and diluted bills, they should stand firm and push forward reforms with clear, bold language. while the Democratic Party has shown serious weaknesses in delivering on major promises. They do deserve credit for one area: their COVID-19 response. In the face of a global crisis, the party moved quickly to expand relief through stimulus checks, increased unemployment, child tax credits, and eviction protections. That moment proved they could act boldly when pushed. But after the emergency faded, so did the urgency. Still, a few voices have refused to stay quiet. Lawmakers like Al Green, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin, Jasmine Crockett and Ayanna Pressley. But they're not alone. There are others, some known, and some not known, who continues to show up speaking truth even when it's not popular or safe. The Democratic Party had a real shot to shift the story for working people, but chose to sit on the sidelines. That silence and inaction sent a clear message to every person juggling 2 or 3 jobs, just to survive. If they don't make bold and urgent changes now, they will not just lose votes. They will lose the very people they claim to fight for. That's a wrap. History seekers. Getting to the roots is where history comes alive. We uncover the truth about Africa, African Americans, and American history, one story at a time. If this hit home, keep going. Watch more on our YouTube playlist. Trump's Hidden Agenda. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.